Were the first to use visualization back in the, I think, 60s and 70s. So they did an experiment. One group would spend 100 hours shooting from the three-point line or whatever position. One group spent only 50%, so 50 hours. And then they spent 50% either visualizing it or pretending to have the ball and slowly throwing it. So they were on the court, but they didn't have the ball in hand. And they felt every movement. The coach will watch the way they move and analyze everything. So they were not fixated on having the ball and actually throwing it. They were fixated on all these other things. The propulsion of the ball. Moving into position, getting into place. Right? Because if you have the ball, you get distracted. Like, I gotta have this ball, I gotta throw it. Versus, okay, I don't have the ball, so now I'm forced to do what? Dribble, 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 spin around, slowly come up. Right? And what happens, they found out, so they did like 100 guys. These 100 guys would have the same result, if not better. But they only had the ball 50% of the time. Because they, there's a term, if you want to get good at anything, it's called sincere learning. It's called having that mental focus, right? So what happens when I watch people who learn well, like Jenny has that, so that's why she's improving so fast, right? So what happens, I'm not saying you don't have it, I'm saying you gotta teach yourself to have it. Like my daughter has it to a certain extent, but once she masters it, she doesn't want to fine tune it. So today learning gymnastics, they were really impressed. She got 82 out of 100%. So they said in 2 months she can move to level 1. From level 2, I mean. So they were really impressed. But the problem with her is that once she masters a skill, she doesn't want to get better. Like, you know how you guys were doing that throw and I say, hey, Paul, you got to swing this hand a little bit faster. You got to tap a little bit faster. Now, you had the move down, but I felt like if you were to fight for real, you wouldn't pull that move down. Now, I can do what you do, but because I've been training so long, I can sense these opportunities, right, to improve. Same with my daughter. So if my daughter understands that, she'll do really well in gymnastics or even in math or spelling, right? So the Asian way of doing things is, we don't care if our kid get 100%. We want our kids to be totally in tune with the activity involved. The 100% is a marker, right? So if my kid got 80 out of 100 on spelling test, we felt like the marker indicate that they did not focus and practice. It did not say that they did not know the spelling word. But Caucasian parents are screaming at the kids saying, well, you didn't know the word. No, we go back to the drawing board and try to figure out why you did not understand how to spell the word correctly. Right? Like my daughter would say, wow, that word was really hard. I got the I and the E mixed up. It's a tricky word. My teacher always said everyone gets that mixed up. Asian parents look at, oh, no, not true. We don't fall for that type of excuse. Right? And so it's just the way it is. Now, if you understand that way of training, it's much tougher. It's not as fun, right? It's not as fun. But your ceiling is always going to get pushed all the time, right? You get what I'm saying? And some people don't like that. It's a freaking grind. Right? And there are days where we just grind it out, and I'm not too concerned about you guys because I'm busy or whatever, right? You know what I mean? You have anything we're going to leave soon, but you have anything you want to add to, because you've been here for 2.5 years, you have anything to add?
Back to the drilling in basketball, if you want to relate that to our free rolling time.
Make sure you
the reason why drilling in such a way is so beneficial, even with half the time, is you're focusing on that one specific thing that you want to get better versus you're playing the game and maybe you'll be able to practice that one movement. But with drilling, you get to go back, do it again,
exactly.
do it again. And even though you only spent 50 hours out of 100, out of that 100 hours, maybe you did that one thing once, twice, 5 times. Out of that 50 hours, you did it, 1 million times. So you got all that time to practice it, sort of thing. So focus training.
Yeah. Okay, so you have any insight you want? Because you've been here for over a year.
No, not really.
Okay.
I find that when, like, shadow boxing, shadow grappling, anything like that,
yeah.
I find that it's more difficult than actually just doing it and doing the drills with somebody else. I find it's way harder to try and do it by yourself.
Okay.
You gotta recreate the conditions you want.
Yes,
Definitely,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's how, me personally, I think that's how the effect actually helps you.
Yeah.
You understand?
Well, that's why the Russians did not completely abandon the basketball. They did it 50% of the time because the ball reinforced the visualization, and the visualization reinforced the ball. You gotta pair the two. You get what I'm saying? So in other words, Bruce Lee said you cannot swim on dry land, right? So the problem is that this sport is so physical that you cannot spar and grapple all the time. You can if you take an HGH, like human growth hormone or TRT or whatever, right? Because that's what. In other words, you can be not as thoughtful. You can still learn it by doing the move 1,000 times, right? But the problem is that your body gets worn out. So unless you're taking drugs or something, you got to be thoughtful. You know what I mean? So as you're getting better, you got to slow it down. So what I've been doing is making a lot of notes now, right? But it just makes the process not as fun. Like when I watch YouTube videos now, I have to make notes.